folks, you are very welcome to Bandido Talks. We are here for a little special episode. We are joined by our guest, Mr. David Feeney. It is a pleasure to have David on Bandido Talks. David, sir, how are you keeping?
Matthew, I'm great, thank you. Great, thank you. Lovely to see you.
Excellent. Now, this is always interesting whenever we can get somebody new on the show, because I'm always on our live stream shows doing a whole bunch of blabbering. So it's nice to have you on. I'm actually really looking forward to this particular chat. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of value and little golden nuggets, little lessons that our audience here at Bandido Talks can take on board. Maybe have a look at the world with a slightly different perspective.
Brilliant.
Does it sound like a plan, Mr. Feeney? Get stuck into a little discussion here this evening.
Let's do this.
Perfect. Okay, so just before we get into the nuts and bolts of the content for tonight's show, I want you just to take a few moments, a few minutes, give our audience, our watching and our listening audience, a rough idea, a little summary of who is David Feeney and what is it that David Feeney does.
Right. That's a very broad. David Feeney is a 46-year-old married man with 3 kids who helps run a clothes shop in Armagh. So I've been there for 38 years, and me and my dad, hopefully we're doing a good job. Well, so far so good anyway. And that's basically just go to work, live my life, that's it.
Gotcha. Very good. Now, you say 38 years. Now, for someone like me, I am not a businessman. I do not really know the nuts and bolts of business. So this is why this is particularly interesting to me. Now, before we get into all of that, what I would love to know is, how is it that David Feeney himself honed his craft? So I want you to take us back a little bit to when you were younger and you started to get involved with the business. Now, the business is Dessies Clothing. Is that correct?
That's right, Dessies Casual Clothing, yeah.
Perfect. So, Dessies Casual Clothing. So, let's step back a little bit. So, when was it that you actually got involved with the business?
Well, Matthew, some people might say I'm a businessman here that understands all the nuts and bolts. It's who I am. It's all I know. 1987, I was 8 years of age. And my dad started his own clothes shop. He took the plunge, and thank God we've never looked back. From the day he's opened, we've always been there and always been reasonably successful. Whenever he first started, 8:30 on a Saturday morning, I was up hoovering, tidying, just generally pulling my weight. So because I just from the day I just loved it from the day he opened. I was always felt right at home there, and even some of the staff we had, they treated me like one of their own, and it's just always been, and it's just, I don't know how to do anything else.
Yes.
And to say from the day he opened, Saturday mornings after school, just loved it. So I love it. Just the people that, just everything about it. So really enjoyable. As I say, I just never wanted to do anything else once I got in there. So
yes.
Then, and it's just, day to day, you just never know who's going to come through the door next, or what's going to happen. Or I've had some really good experiences and met some lovely people. So it's just been so good to me and my whole family.
Yes, very good.
My dad's there every day. He's 76 years of age, and he's the first man there. He mightn't be the last to leave anymore, but he teaches me something new every day. So whenever I first started, I remember. Whenever I left school to work there, he used to ask me to do things. And if I had always said why, or maybe said, why not do something, do it a different way or do something else. Now, if he asks me to do something, I just say, okay, because his way is always right, or has been 99.9% of times. So, it's I say, look, it's just great, just brilliant.
Got you. And whenever you first got involved, David, so the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I'm thinking of something like this, in the Star Wars movies, you have the classic dynamic of the master and the apprentice. So who in a sense was your master? So you were coming in as an apprentice.
Yes.
So how did you learn your craft? Who was your master? How did you go about that process of honing those skills?
Well, whenever I finally left school, I was 18. I just done my A-levels, and I didn't want to go to university. I didn't have interest in anything else. So there was my dad, and there was a fellow who personally worked for him called Kevin Oates, and he taught me, well, everything that I know, not everything that he knows. He took me under his wing, and between him and my dad, they were my masters, and I was their apprentice. And as I say, at the start, if they asked me to do something, to move something here, put this at that, or do whatever, I used to question them. And I used to maybe say that was wrong. I didn't question it. And I was told, no, I thought I was a smart ass, basically. I thought I was going to tell a man who'd been selling clothes for what, at that stage, good God, over 30 years. I thought he worked in a shop for 25 years before that. I came in and told him what to do, which didn't last too long. I was put in my box, and I learned from it. I took it on board. I didn't throw the dummy out, and I felt like it sometimes. I was a typical 18-year-old. What does a 50-year-old man know about it, or whatever? So I learned, and it taught me some valuable lessons. So as I say, at the start, I thought I knew it all. I'd be the first to admit that I thought I was a smart ass. I wasn't even a smart ass, so I wasn't. But it really has taught me some good life lessons. I didn't know how to speak to people properly. I didn't know how to sell stuff, basically. I just thought I knew it all. But really, between my dad and Kevin Oates, they really, really did whip me into shape. And I put the two of them down to the man I am today.
Yes.
So, and how successful our business is, down to those two. Now, especially my dad, because Kevin moved on to new pastures.
Yes.
So he did. So whenever he left, I took on his role. So but he was invaluable to me as well. So and my dad still teaches me, as I say. So he does something new every day.
Very good. And whenever you're thinking of lessons, then David. So here on the show, what we basically try to do is we try to extract lessons out of. It could be common media articles, or it could be people in general, people that we have on the show. So in this type of a business, you are constantly dealing with customers. Let's focus on the customer element first.
Okay, right.
So whenever I think of this, I'm just trying to think of it from my own perspective. Again, I'm not a businessman.
No. Well, some people say I am. Sorry.
I think far too modest, Mr. Feeney. Far too modest, I think. But when I think of what it is that you have to do, I often think, because you're talking about lessons that you learn, especially when you were 18 coming into the business.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I think of is when you have a customer come in through the door, there is this fine line, and I think there's a real skill in this, and I'm going to get you to sort of evaluate a little bit and explain to us how you find the balance between when somebody comes into the store. There is this fine balance between being overbearing and right on top of the customer, but also you don't want to be negligent. So you don't want to have the customer feel as if you're not interested.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how you strike that balance.
Well, we've got to, because we're in a small town, we've got to know most people coming in. So it's not, you said, for example, you come in at home, whenever your granny was alive, you heard very well.
Yes.
Hello, Matthew, how are you? How's your granny? How's your mum? How's things? If you need some help, you know where I am. If you want to be left alone, we'll leave you alone. But we have a very, very personal relationship with a lot of our customers. And I think you need to know how to keep that in line. You don't get to get too involved. Just let them know you care. Couple of questions to break the ice. Then, by the way, I think this will suit you. Here you go. That sort of, as I said, we're very personal with it. Now, not everybody wants that. You get some people come in, hello, how are you? I'm having a shocking day. I don't want to work away, we'll leave you alone. Other people want to give you the full rundown of their life, which I'm more than happy to listen to if we get a sale at the end of it. So, but no, listen, I put it down to, over the years, you've got to learn who wants to talk and who doesn't. You find out some people want to come in, as I say, and some people I've learned to read people, and I didn't at the start. It was all business. Hello, how are you? What can I help you with? Then over the years, as I got to know people, hello, I like to say, how's such and such, how's your wife, how's kids? And you get to say, remember people coming back and that, and then you get to know the last time they were here, they didn't really want to talk, so we'll leave them alone. And people open up, it can go either way. I mean, we've had customers who at the start maybe didn't say a word, and by the time the next 3 or 4 visits, we get to know about their whole life, their families. And a lot of them become friends as well. So I have. But it's a fine line. You don't want to, as you say, don't be overbearing. And at the start, I wasn't overbearing, but I maybe been a bit neglectful because you didn't want people thinking there's a young lad here trying to push. I mean, so it is a fine line, and I have made mistakes, and maybe some people wanted more attention than I gave them. And just to I've learned over the years, and I think I've got it. I'm not 100%, but you never get 100%. I'm nearly there. Getting yes. Right. So, as I say, you don't want to be nosy either. Some people maybe say they're having a really bad day, and the last thing they want is me asking about how's your kids or how they come in to get away from that maybe. Yes. So maybe talk about their weekend, their night out, something like that as well. So as I said, just learning over the years your people skills. So there's some people you can do. Some people want to chat, some don't. So thankfully, most do because of no choice with us sometimes.
Yes, so it's sort of you've sort of learned a couple of things. It seems whenever I'm listening to you, it seems as if number one, you've learned how to read the personality, the character of the person, because you may actually just have a personality in your presence who's quite maybe introverted in a sense, and maybe their baseline is not very chatty.
Just business, just want to go in, get their jeans, whatever, and leave. But I have been wrong as well. If some people have seen come and go, God, he's awful grumpy, or he's not, and they've turned out to be so nice, and you get, as I say, they've ended up friends.
Yes.
So I have, you see someone go, God, he's a bit grumpy looking, and you think, I'll not maybe buy. And then they give you a wee bit of information, and then you get talking, and you end up chatting about football, cars, and they say you can draw them out. Maybe some people hadn't intended telling me all the things that they do. But it's like a confession box. Some of the things I hear, people do seem to open up sometimes. Yes. Sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear. But again, it's like a confession box. Nothing leaves the shop.
And that seems to be a very, for some people, David, there is the actual coming in to the shop, and perhaps they're looking for something specific, but maybe that's a big part of it for a certain section of the population who would be coming into your business. They're coming in, yes, looking for perhaps a product, but they're also looking for the human interaction in a sense too. Would that be fair enough to say?
We have people, Matthew, look, I could have somebody in today and they could buy all sorts off me. They come in the next day or next week just for a chat, which is fantastic. Now, 9 out of 10 times they might buy something again, but they call in and say, look, I was in last week, just taking another wee look, and we end up having a chat for 10 minutes. They say thank you, goodbye, but they come back. Whereas if you don't have that, if they come in and they say, look, we have people going to say, look, I'm only coming in for a chat, I'm not buying. Some people might say, well, I'm not going to waste my time with them. Now, I'll never neglect the customer and say, excuse me, I'll be back with you in a second. But I think that's nice that people can come back and don't feel under any pressure. And I say, we've made a lot of good friends. So yes. People from all walks of life and all age groups. I mean, it's amazing. So as I say, I think that's our credit that we know, but we're not pushy with people. So which has a lot to do with it. And I say I've learned, as I say, some people might come in and say just to have a chat, which is great. We love that too. Now we get our work done, but as I say, look, I'll say to somebody, look, excuse me, I'll see the customer. I'll come back and how's things now, whatever. And it's great.
Yes.
So it's great. But it says some people do come in, and certain people, look, I want a pair of jeans size 32. That's what I want. There's the money. Thank you. See you again. Which we don't mind as well. Which we don't mind. That keeps the whole thing ticking over as well. So it does. But in general, we've learned how to get the best out of people.
Sure.
So but it says some of the people. There's one guy in particular, a delivery driver. He used to come into us, and he was so grumpy. And he used to throw the stuff down and here, sign that. But I got to find out the football team supported from one of his mates. So I happened to drop a comment one day about that, and he stopped. He says, "What did you say?" So we got chatting about football. He turned out to be a very, very good friend in the end up. Because I think maybe somebody else didn't make the effort. Nobody else in the shop's made an effort with him. So once I get chatting with him and dropped this in about football, I turned up. And again, if he'd nothing to deliver to us, he just used to call in for a chat. So
Yes.
that's just one example. So but as I says, it's a fine line.
Sure.
So if that guy was in a hurry and he'd load of deliveries to do, I'll not keep him.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so no, it's a fine line getting it right.
Yes, and this is actually fascinating. I think there's actually a really good lesson in what you've just said there. And what I mean is people who are in business, say people who are in the clothing sector, people who are in business in general, dealing with customers physically in the real world. I think the lesson that I learn in this case from what you're saying is sometimes somebody may call into your business, and in that particular instance, they're not actually looking to purchase anything there and then. But by you just engaging with the person and not being pushy for the sell, not being pushy to try and get them to leave your premises with an item, you end up generating some sort of rapport with the person, and you may not get the sale there and then, but they may come back in at some stage later on.
You build up a bit of trust. I've had people try on things, and if it's not right, and I mean this is on, I'll say no. Wait and try something, or wait another day and get something, or they're not sure. If somebody goes in to buy a pair of boots and they end up with the jacket and they say they're not sure, I say, look, you didn't come in looking for a jacket. Come back and check, or you didn't, because if you, one of the lessons I learned years ago, if you buy something off somebody and you don't like it or don't wear it, it puts you off going back. If you open your wardrobe and you see something sitting there and you say, he made me take that, or I took that and I haven't worn it, and it's a waste of money, and when am I ever going to wear that? You think, next time I need something, I'm not going to go to him. Whereas if you open your wardrobe, God, there's that shirt, last time I wore that, it was great, or it looked well, I'll stick it on again, I might go in and see if they have another one, something like that. So you build up trust with your customers. So, now, of course, you can't please everybody. Everybody still thinks that you're just out to put money in the well, it's the name of the, we are there to make a living, yes, but not at other people's expenses. I don't want to see people wasting money. And as I say, there's a feel-good factor as well. If you leave my shop with a nice outfit, feeling good, you'll come back. But if you leave and think, I'm not really sure about that, I'll take it home and think about it, and then I don't like, and the people don't come back. So, and we love feedback to say, God, that was great, or I wore that, and it was, and say, or you were right not to take that other one. I've had people come back to me and say, look, I was here last week, you didn't let me, you were waiting for something else coming in. Once I give it to them and say, you were right. So you do build up that trust.
Yes, and that's actually an interesting thing that I'm learning from the discussion here is sometimes whenever people would get into business, let's say, or into sales, because sales is something, I think life is sales. I mean, we are on a podcast episode, we are communicating to an audience. So you're essentially, in this case, we could make the argument that we are selling our content to the audience. We're trying to make the content interesting and valuable. So it is sales.
Of course,
life is sales. But sometimes I think, and it comes back to our earlier point about maybe we use the word overbearing or maybe too needy for the sale. But what I'm getting from you is you have this patience to know that, you know what, this individual has came in and they've tried this thing on, but it isn't actually the right thing for them. And instead of just, oh yeah, no, it looks great, can I have now the sale? There's a patience. You sort of understand that, look, if that person goes home, as you've just said, and they look at that item that they've purchased, and they sort of realize, well, it's actually, it sits there more than it's actually on me. It sits in the wardrobe more than I actually wear it. Maybe that generates, as you're saying, could be subconscious, could be conscious. Perhaps we could say a negative association.
Negative, it does. It's all in the mind. But I mean, I'm lucky. I have to say, I'm lucky, so lucky, and I'm in the position that we're not breaking any records, and we're not horrids or savages. We're just an ordinary decent. And we make a living, and we don't have to hit target. We don't have to hit targets. If nobody breathing down my back saying, look, you sold 20 pair of jeans today, why is it not 25? You made X amount of pounds this week, why is it not, you haven't made enough to cover bills. I'm so lucky that my dad has left us in the position, has got us to that point. That, as I say, look, we're not blowing we're not breaking any records. We just make a good, decent living to keep us all happy. And I think if you were desperate, I mean, if I knew, say, the electricity bill was coming and you had enough money to cover it, get those things. Yeah, they're perfect on you, mate. You know what the hell to do. Which it just, yes, some people have to do that. And as I say, I put it all down to my dad. Leaving, being that we're in the position that we're in. Everything's, as I say, yes, we've our bills to pay the same as anybody else, but we've never worried about that or struggled. As I say now, and that's not being big-headed or bragging. It's down to his good business sense.
Sure.
Because he's always been the gap with me. I've seen him, and that's who I learned it off. I've seen him before saying to people, look, that's too big, too small, don't buy it, wait and come back. That doesn't suit you. If another one comes, and because we do the buying, we do the buying, we do the selling, we do the windows, we do the merchandise, we put the stock away, we price it, we do everything. So we know what's coming, we know what's not there, we know what and I said that's some shops maybe, somebody on the shop floor who spends way most time in the office, or that just come and go. We do everything. We're away, we leave on a Sunday morning, sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock to go and see our suppliers in Dublin. So I can say to you, if you come into me, look, next Tuesday I'll have something I think's going to suit you. I bought it last Monday, and that comes a different colour, but I've not have it. If I haven't got your size now, I can tell you exactly when I will have it, which is very important. I say I put that all down. That's what my dad's taught me. If you come into me and I say, you said that doesn't suit you, and I go, well, when will you have it? God, I don't know. I need to ask somebody who done it. So I say we're jacks of all trades. We do everything from the minute up here. We say from the buying, the selling, merchandising, windows, hoovering. We know every nook and cranny in the shop and every item on it. So that's a big thing.
Yes.
So I mean, some people just turn up in a shop and just sell things and go home and leave the buying to somebody else, or if somebody comes in and says, "What's in your window?" or "Such and such a window," we can rhyme it off. Whereas some stores, they have to go out and check, or because they don't do the windows. Just simple things like that. So, or knowing him, look, if you got many of that left, I can rhyme off. Yes, I've got 2 of it, so don't be panicking, or I've got 10 of it, or there's more of it coming. So, and I think that's another thing. People come into me and say, I'm not sure about that. Have you many of those? Yes, I've stacked them, or no, I don't. And it's not. Some people might say, no, that's the last one. And so we can tell the truth, and I think it's a big part of it. But I said again, I put that all down to my dad.
But whenever I speak with you, David, it seems like you know your business inside out. So you're talking about how you know what's in the window. You know how much of a certain item is left. And I think, would it be fair to say that whenever you have customers in front of you, that competence shines through to the customer and they actually feel more confident in your company because you seem so competent?
Well, look, if you put me anywhere else, I'm not confident anywhere. If you put me in there, I know what I'm telling you is 100%. I think it's because of the fact that it's true. And you can always tell a liar. Look, bad people move their hands, their eyes. So I think whenever people look at me and know, look, I say, you could come into me and say, have you many of that left? And I say, don't panic, there's not 10 of it. Whereas some people, you have to take that now as the last one. I can't get out. So I think by people knowing, you can tell a liar, and I think I'm confident there because I'm telling the truth and I have a fair idea what I'm doing. So I do. But I'd hate somebody to come in and say, God, that lad hasn't a clue what he's at there. He told me, that will match that or that doesn't match that, and he hasn't a clue what he's talking about. So, So in there, I'm so confident, but I wouldn't be confident, outside of work. I wouldn't, that's the only thing I know, really. Sure. I'm not an expert in anything else. So I'm not that I claim to be an expert on what I'm doing, but I have a fair idea what I'm doing.
Yes. And I think, you know what, that's normal though. Because if you were to put, if you were to put a cricket bat in my hand and send me out onto the cricket field, out on the mall on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I don't think you cut the mustard.
You would see the Bandido's bravado would start to dissolve away very quickly.
It's like put me behind a counter anywhere else. And then people say if you can sell, one thing you can sell. I couldn't sell you a car and I couldn't sell you a whatever, but I know what I'm talking about there. So I think, and I'd like to think, I said it's confidence, but it's the truth as well, and that's why I'm confident.
Sure.
So, but if I was standing telling lies and looking at the floor and being shit, I can look anybody in the eye and I guarantee them, yes, I'm telling the truth and I know what I'm talking about. So that's a big help. And again, I keep saying, go back to this, I put that down to my dad.
Yes. Very good. And I think this actually segues into something that I'm personally quite interested in. Now that I have you on the call, I'm interested in the following, because there's one thing having the passion. You very clearly have the passion for what it is that you do, because you've been in the business for so long. And anybody who has went into Dessie's shop and actually interacted with you or Dessie, the passion oozes from you and everybody who's involved with the business. There's passion though, and then there's competence. So we're talking about your competence as well. You know your business inside out. But the thing is, there's having the competency, there is having the passion. How do you make though, in this case, let's keep it specific. So we're talking about clothing, we're talking about fashion, menswear. How do you make this kind of a business profitable? For those who may be watching and listening, for that particular sector, what are some of the keys to make that kind of business profitable?
Right. Well, I think having the right product for a start is very important. We have some agents and reps, again, we've been dealing with almost 40 years, and they will come along with a brand and they'll say, look, I think this should work. But a lot of it does come down to personal taste. We've had people try to sell us. You get a feel for your customers and you watch what's going on, and you watch TV and things doesn't really apply to a small clothes shop or a clothes shop in a small town like Armagh. You're not watching the Versace catwalks and things. You're watching a guy in the pub, you're watching a guy walking down the street, you're watching a guy going to a cash machine, what he's wearing. But there's people a lot smarter than me that are predicting what's coming. So we have to take those on board. Plus, we don't have a fancy shop fit. Things that we sell clothes. When we done renovation work a couple of years ago, and some of the shop outfitters were trying to sell us these stands and things. The clothes were secondary to that. You have to first and foremost, a nice fancy shop, yes, is great, but it's the product. They're not there to buy your fixtures and fittings. You're not there to buy a fancy hanger. The only thing we have a lovely sign outside that we've got to let them, and that's a big draw in. Sure. But it's once you get the product has to be right. So I was to say, look, I could have Versace and we want something nice, basic that appeals to the masses, and that's very. You don't get too fancy. If that's the right way to put it. We're very grounded and down to earth, and it's all a matter of, look, if you get a winner, yes, back it, but you have to know when to stop. Somebody will come into me and I'll say, look, there's a nice shirt. I got that 2 weeks ago. So you can start to think, once you start seeing your customers coming, we have customers we have every week. And once you see them saying, look, have that, maybe if it's another colour, maybe it's if you had it in short sleeves or so, and you have to take that on board. And, it's just a fine line of knowing when something's just peaked and you start to run it down there and then get them something new. So we have customers I can all nearly tell you who's going to be in the shop tomorrow, Saturday morning. So I'll be able to say to them, look, since you're here, that's come in, that's come in, that's come in. You already have that. There's no more of that left. That's the end of it. So it's just about getting a feel for when, yes, if it's nice. Now, we don't win them all. Sometimes you think something's absolutely class. You don't sell any, so you have to cut your losses, reduce, and clear it. Now, there's always something for somebody. But sometimes, now, thank God, more often than not, we've got it. You never get it 100% right, but that would take the crack out of it. So if you were getting out of bed and you need a challenge. If you get out of bed every day, you're going to sell everything. Yes, it would be great, but you need a wee bit of a challenge as well. I think, God, that's not shifting. Maybe have to reduce that. It's that line of we get, and you don't want your customers. You have to get that right. If I sell you a jumper this week and it's 50 quid, and you come back next week, it's only ends back next week. It's 25. That's not fair on our customers. Now, yes, we'll have to do sometimes, but it's a fact, just getting the value out of something, saying, right, that's the end of that. Give it another 2 months, maybe, or a month, and then it has to go. So, but it's just that, and I say, it's just knowing when to cut your losses as well sometimes too.
Yes.
So it is. And of course, then some of the things we have, nobody else has. Some of the brands we have a great relationship with all our brands and their agents and reps. And again, a lot of them become like family and friends. There's some of them bought me wedding presents, they know it's my birthday, my kids' birthdays. And you trust them as well. So they'll come to you and say, look, I think you should have this, you should have that. But there's no, like, once you have it, once we have it, it's ours. there's no, we'll take that back if it doesn't sell sort of thing.
Yes.
So there's a mutual, but then if we sell a lot of it, they get the commission, they get a repeat. So it's in everybody's interest. And we're not fly by, you know, and a lot of the reps, I say, we're dealing with them nearly 40 years. So it's in everybody's interest.
Yes.
So
you've got great relationships built up with the people who you're dealing with. That's a key then in terms of the profitability of the business, having those relationships.
Look, if I told you, I mean, some of the things I say, a lot of the reps, I know their kids, I know their wives, they know my family. I'm saying, now it is business as well, don't get me wrong. And I say, but even when I meet a new rep, we've always done our best to try and we'll do our business, yes, but you do build up a rapport. And I think, we'll have nobody comes in, we'll have a rep, you say, look, don't buy that. Do buy that, don't buy that, which I think is fantastic. So it is. And the dudes will try and keep, because it's in everybody's interest. So when I say it doesn't work all the time, sometimes I might be calling them forever, a ring and saying, they'll still have 20 that I didn't sell. And they'll say, look, we'll turn over a game and not buy that again.
Yes.
So, and they'll say this, look, you bought that before and it didn't work, or I'll give them feedback. So one of our customers, in fact, or one of our brands, they'll ring me and say, look, I think you've too much of this bought. Which is it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But they ring me and say, look, I think for a shop your size, you bought too much of this. Now, sometimes I say, look, send it on. I want it, I need it. I know my customers. Other times I say, look, thank you. But you can't get carried away. If you're sitting on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock and you're in a nice bright showroom and everything's so well presented and you're thinking, that could work. And you go home and you think about it and they'll ring me and say, look, I don't think you should have taken that, which is great. Now, I said, it doesn't happen too often. So it does, because most of those guys elect the commission in that as well. But a lot of them do see the bigger picture.
Sure.
So if Dessies doesn't sell that, then back for anything else.
Yes.
And of course we've had to do that sometimes too, which is very, very difficult. We have a couple of great people, but the brands just died or they lost their way. And we've had to make a phone call and say, look, sorry, I don't want to see you this time. Maybe 6, 8, 10 months down the year. And unfortunately, you might never see them again.
Okay.
So, but that's very few and far between. I mean, most of them, we've even had a couple of reps who retired and they still called to see us or make an odd phone call, Christmas and things like that, which is lovely to think that of us. So, but as I said, I put it down to not just us, but the people that we're working with. There's some fantastic people that we're involved with, and we're so lucky. There's a couple of brands there, and we're so lucky to have them, and that has a lot to do with it. And they're putting the effort into marketing and things. I mean, Tommy Bowe, for example, he does a lot of the work for us. He goes on TV every morning wearing a jumper, come on in the Dessie and see if he has that, which is great. So it is, so that's a lot. It's not, we can't take all the credit for it.
Yes, so it's in a sense. Then there is the having that really good rapport with the reps. There is knowing when to cut your losses. That's another thing as well.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But sometimes maybe that can be maybe difficult because, say in your case, for example, try to give us an example where you would be in a situation where what would we say? You've maybe bought in a bunch of a certain type of product and
it's mostly a brand. It's mostly a brand. It's mostly a brand. We can have a brand and it could be the biggest thing. They're bad at hand over fist. And all of a sudden, now don't ask me for why the next day, that's a bit of anxiety. Within a week, now we maybe had it for, say, 3, 4, 5 years, okay? And all of a sudden, you just notice that's not selling. Sold 20 of that last week and 30 the week before and for. And all of a sudden, it's sitting, and then you start to show it to people, and they say, no, I wouldn't wear that. I wouldn't wear that brand and thing. And it's sometimes you think it goes on for a wee while, and then you have to say, well, look, that's costing me money sitting there. So you just have to maybe the rep will phone and say, look, right, we're ready to show you next season. And unfortunately, you just have to say, look, I'm sorry, the brand's not working anymore. We don't want to close the account. Maybe this time for next season, give us a shout and we'll see what happens. And then people people come and ask us for some brands, which they have done over the, Levi's, for example, at one stage, we thought we'll have to close it in Levi's. It died a death and we had to make the decision to close. But I say, whenever people stop coming in and asking for something, you just think, maybe it's time just to. And it's sad too because they've made us some of the brands wouldn't be here only for them, but that doesn't pay the bills.
Sure.
If that's sitting there, so it's not so much specific items. It's more with us. It's more the brand. So,
Yes.
because I could show you the same T-shirt in two different brands, and all day long they go for one. And it could be the same thing, but because it's got that name, or it doesn't have the name, or it's too big or too small, that's the killer. So it is. So it's just and it's no fault of ours. It's a social thing. Somebody's seen wearing it on Facebook or on the news. Oh God, if he's wearing that, I'm not wearing that. You know, someone not even celebrity, maybe even somebody in the paper for doing something they shouldn't have done, and they're wearing a certain logo or thing, and they think, right, if I wear that, they associate that with thugs or something, a certain thing. So that can kill a brand. Now it could go the other way as well. We've had people where some people wear things, and people, if he's wearing it, I want that. So it can work both ways. So it can, but it can be it's very hard to ring maybe and say somebody I've known for 20 years and say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not doing business with you for a while.
Yes.
And we always stress that it's not it's not a personal thing. But they understand. Look, we're not the only shop. Let's realise that it's a universe through the country. You know, we're not the only one ringing and saying, look, we're not selling this. We got 10 phone calls I got that day.
Yes.
Or the same response. So it's a universal thing, and that's the hardest part, to be honest. So it is terminating something like that. But then again, as I say, look, when you sit back, look at the bigger picture, and you look and you see what you spent on it, and what it's brought in, and what it's cost you sitting there, you think, right, that doesn't pay the bills. That's time to go.
Yes, and that's all part and parcel of, yes, making the entire operation profitable.
But look, at the end of the day, look, we're there to offer. But at the end of the day, look, we're there to put food on the table and earn a living. So you know, so you can't be sentimental. We used to maybe think, oh, we'll give it another season, or maybe we'll try a different color. But you can't. It's changed times now. You can't do that. So you know, you might have thought, say, green wasn't working or something, but maybe I'll try the red then and give it. Or didn't work this season. Better maybe for winter. You don't do that anymore. You know, there's not as much. The world's a small place now, and you know, people think, why has he got that and nobody else has that, or they've got a different brand instead of this one. So you have to be on your toes now. But it's such a small world. Years ago, people didn't know what was happening in Dungannon, in Newry, in Portadown. They stayed in Armagh. So I think it's great when people go to other towns and come back and say, God, I've seen that in Belfast. I've seen that. I was in Portadown now. I was Craigavon Shopping Centre. I've seen they've got that as well. Which is, we love to hear that. You know, these so-called bigger shops have what our wee shop has.
Yes.
So you know, I mean, if they're moving the way, and sometimes we don't keep an eye. We don't keep an eye on the competition as such. But we talk. It's a small country, so I'm talking to other retailers. Sure. So you know, all over, and we all put our heads together. And we usually find we're all in the same wavelength, and we all have the same experiences, which is great. So we're doing something right.
Yes.
So I know if we were saying something different to them, you start to think, God, really, they're right, and I'm wrong. But we're usually on the same. That's not 100%. Maybe 95, 98% of the time would be all on the same wavelength, which is great because you know you're doing something right. You see how successful some of them are.
And I think this is actually great because you've hit on something, and I wasn't even thinking about this. I didn't even think this would come up in our discussion, but now that you've mentioned it, I'm now just thinking, and I wonder what your feedback would be on this point. So we've kind of, in the last, let's say the last 20 years, we've really moved into the information age. And by information age, I mean, we have the social media platforms. The internet has become this colossus in a sense.
I've lost sound. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
Things change.
Do you want to repeat that again? Lost sound there. Sorry.
Am I back on?
No, you're back now. Yes, go on ahead. Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Was there a gremlin in our discussion?
There's a gremlin somewhere, but we're getting on. I knew it was going too well.
The technological gremlins. What are we going to do with them, David Feeney, huh?
Well, start again, Matt. You give me that question again, please.
So what it was is, and you've already touched on this, but I just want you to explain a little bit more, which is with respect to us entering into the information age. So I'm basically saying in the last 20 years, we've had the rise of social media and the expansion of the internet. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, now that your customers have access to what someone is doing in, Australia, or what somebody's doing in Japan, they wouldn't have been able to do this 20 years ago. Not on the scale they can do it now. So have you noticed a difference in customer behavior? Because the business has been going for 38 years. So you've went through this transition.
Yeah. We have noticed, yeah. So it used to be people taking photographs of a lot of things, right? So somebody comes in to buy you something, and they used to say, "Look, I tell you what I'll do. I'll call back in 10. I'll go home and ask him." Now they take a photograph of the FaceTime, you get an answer straight away. Um, the internet ban hasn't affected it. We're catering for a certain age group, and if a fella wants to go for a pint, he wants a shirt now. He's not prepared to. There's a certain age group we're catering for. Still living at home, disposable income, maybe not married, wants to go for a pint. He's not going to wait in a shirt to be delivered. So, but the world's a smaller place. People come into me and say, "Look, I seen this in somebody's Facebook. If you got it, I was on the Superdry website. If you got this." So you have to sort of keep an eye on what they're doing. But again, a lot of the companies will send us stuff from that we have from there with the same stuff to keep us up to date with what they're doing. But definitely, sometimes it's not for the better. So it's not. I mean, people have too much choice now sometimes. So and look, we try to offer as much. You can't stock everything. People have said to me, "Look, you've that jumper. Like I have one particular top in 10 colours. Okay." And it's a Tommy Bowles that we sell all day long. I like have somebody coming in and say to me, "Look, they've got a green one on their website, and it could be the only colour I don't have." And I say, "Look, there's a different shape. No, that's the one they want because I've seen this." So it can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing, but more it's good because again, it shows that a small shop like us in Armagh have got what the multiples have. I mean, you can go to Brian Thomas and pull out some of the same clothes we have, big names they got, Selfridges. Not some of the same, the Wranglers and things, which is great that a wee shop like us has the same. We're in the same showrooms as I am, dealing with the same people, and like they're multi-billion-pound conglomerates, massive. And I think it's great somebody comes into me and said, "Look, I was in such and such a shop, and I see they have that shirt too." But then somebody can say, "Look, they've got 3 colours, and they've got 4 colours, you've only got 3." So it's mostly positive. Sure. And it really raised our profile, to be honest with you. You think you walk down the street and you see this wee shop, and then you come in and you see, "God, they've got the same as him or the same as that," or "I was online the other day and I seen that," which is great. So because people sometimes think maybe in your shop we don't get the same access.
Yes.
To the big, but actually we have everything and see everything that all those big guys do. Now we can't buy them all, obviously, but as I say, it gives us a real buzz. If somebody comes in and says, "God, I was in such a big shop and I seen those jeans," they have them as well.
Sure.
And yeah, it's now and sometimes we have more than them, but that's the only downside. Of people have more, and no matter what the range you have, it's still not enough for some people. So, but 9 out of 10 times it's good. So it said overall it's a positive.
Excellent.
And you can put yourself out there as well. I mean, I do a bit through Facebook and things like that, and the amount of business we get off that, and it doesn't necessarily. We post stuff out and things like that, but I mean, even an inquiry, and then a couple of weeks later, somebody came and said, "God, I was talking to you on Facebook maybe last Tuesday night. I decided to come up and have a look." It's mostly we can put ourselves out there and show that we can, cope with we can run with the big boys, as I call them, because I count us like we're just a one shop, just tipping out compared to some of the guys, and and like people spend a fortune on shop fits and advertising, and they forget sometimes that they are selling clothes. The clothes come secondary. It's the same as some of the adverts. I mean, you look at an advert, it can take you a couple of minutes to figure out what it's for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's why we pride ourselves on keeping it basic, putting ourselves out there, and we're trying to give people what they want. I'm listening. If somebody comes into me and says, "Look, I seen that, and you should have that colour," we'll get it if we have room for it and can afford it. And we'll get rid of something else first.
Yes.
Or whatever. And if somebody said to me, "Look, I seen that," and I think so, we'll take it on board. Now sometimes we might say, look at it and say, "That's horrible. That's why I didn't buy it." so we don't take it all. People can tell you lies as well.
Sure.
So maybe that's down to a personal choice, but we have to think of the big picture. So
yes.
The way we operate, I mean, if we're buying something and I like it and my dad doesn't, we don't buy it. If he likes it, I don't. So we have to agree for a start. There's nothing in there that he can say, "I don't like that," or "I don't like that." Every single item from top to bottom, we have picked and agreed on. Which I think is important as well. Because if you like something, you can feel better about selling it as well.
Yes, very interesting indeed. And this is consistent with what you're saying too about the product being the star of the show.
Of course, yeah. Look, we're only there. Look, if it wasn't for the product, we wouldn't be there. But if I can wholeheartedly, people say to me, "Which one do you like?" I say, "Look, they wouldn't be here if we didn't choose them." You know, and when you like something, you're confident and knowing that you and people and the fact that we're both, because they say, look, it is a democracy. Dessie's the boss, but it is a democracy. If the two of us can't agree, if it's not unanimous, we don't bet. So, and that gives us the confidence to sell it. I mean, if somebody picks up a shirt and they say, "Do you like that?" and I have to turn and say, "Well, no, actually, my dad picked that."
Yes.
You know, and it just doesn't work. The customer feels it, or if somebody picks something up and they say, "Do you like that?" and I say yes, the customer picks up on that.
Sure.
Whereas I know if I know that I picked it and bought it, the two of us have most confidence say yes. I think the customer feels that too, to be honest.
That's fascinating, actually. That never even crossed my mind until you said it. Because when I'm thinking about you're working there with your dad, Dessie, and that's actually a really interesting point, because if he brings in a particular shirt, piece of clothing that you don't like, and it may be you who is actually dealing with the customer with that particular product, and if you don't have the spark, if you don't have the passion.
Yeah, but even as I say, look, people can tell a liar. If I had to look you in the eye and say, "Yes, I like that," or "Yes, that looks good," no, it just doesn't work, and people aren't silly. So that's why we both do the buying together. We both go, and that's why people do us take us on a Sunday morning sometimes. So that, I mean, we say we pack up and leave maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, because it means it's only time both of us can, because one of us has to be in the shop. So that's one of the rules. So not that we can't, but just not that we can't trust anybody. We'll just love being there.
Yes.
So and I think that's why it works as well, as I say, because we do agree on most. Well, we do agree on everything that's there. Now there's been stuff I've wanted, and I've thought, God, that'll be brilliant, or make a fortune, and there's vice versa. But if we can't get 100%, then it doesn't get bought, and that's it.
Very good. I love that. I think that's actually very valuable, especially.
I think that's what makes us different from a multiple. If you go into a store and it's just reel after reel of the same thing, and there's no variation, it's hard to explain. Like, I think in multiples, if people are selling things, it's done by a buyer, or even smaller shops. Maybe you have 2 or 3 shops. There's a buyer who doesn't actually be on the shop floor, and every town's different as well. So I think if you go into a shop, maybe they have a shop in 2 different towns, but they buy the same product, it doesn't work. If you know what I mean, and I think that's where the personal touch comes in again that we have, and that's why we have been successful. So it is. If you go into somewhere and you ask about what other colours does that come in, or what sizes, and maybe some stuff I don't know. I only work here. Do you know where I'm coming from? Just that. I'm only here to I'm only here to get my wages. So whereas we're building up, I think in a shop like us, we build up. It's not just about sales; we're building up a good repeat business. So it is as well. So I think that's a lot. That's a big factor in success. Is knowing your customer, knowing your product. You can't just put a shirt in a hanger and just hang it up and go, right, that'll sell. You need to know a wee bit about it. Like, we'll research the fit, colour, where it's made, things, just wee things about it that I can rhyme off a wee story about it. So it can, which is very important. Or that was inspired by this. Or we listen to what they're telling us whenever we're buying it. So whereas if you're standing in a shop, you go into a shop and a young lad standing maybe now we have our Saturday staff as well. Don't get me wrong, and they're clued in as well. But there's some places the lad just turns up on Saturday, puts clothes in the bag and takes the money, which is nothing wrong with that. You need that sometimes too. But if a customer wants to ask you something and knows, you need to know about your product. So that's very, very, very important. And people sometimes get to expect that off us.
Yes.
So not just come in and just put that in the bag and go. They need to, now there's some people who say, listen, I don't care, I'm in a hurry, just put the bag and get me out of here. So which is sometimes what you want.
Yeah.
You know, so no, it's just getting that. That's what I said earlier. Getting that fine line. Some people don't want to know that fit was cut with a placket at the back, or it's got a button down collar. People don't want to know that. It looks well. Give me it in a hurry. But it's nice to be able to, if they ask me, why where's the button? It's under the collar. It's the placket at the back. It's got side seams at the back. You have to be able to tell them that. So which is a few in some people don't care as well. So we know our product, and well, not inside out, but know it fairly well.
Yes, and then that comes back to what you said earlier. You have all of this knowledge about your business, about your product, but it comes back to what you've said. If somebody comes in, David, and you're reading the room, you're reading the personality, maybe it might be the time for a little story and a little bit of background on the product. Maybe it mightn't.
No, some people say, look, some people just want to come in and you can get the fair idea. Some people just listen, I need a shirt, I'm in a hurry. I like that, looks well, thank you, goodbye. But it's about that. Or look, I just want to look around me. So it's just about getting that, as we said earlier, but not overbearing and just knowing when to step back. And so some people want to know that, other people don't give two damns. Yes. So it's just, again, it's about reading people and you still, I never get it 100%. So, but about reading people, that's what it's about. Knowing your product and reading people is two of the most important things. So, and having the right product, of course, as well. And as I say, look, sometimes it's not even the product, it's I could have something that looks like, some people think it looks horrible, but it's the name as well. We the guys come in and asking for a certain brand. Now, we wouldn't, if we obviously like it, but other people might say that's horrible. But you get a certain age, let's say glass, because it's got that name on it.
Yes.
So, which is important as well. So, but we learn every day from people.
Very good indeed. And even just to draw our little episode to a close, just give us a little gauge, because I love hearing all the ins and outs of your particular business, but even give us just a gauge. What is a typical day in the life like for, say, David Feeney? So just give us a typical work day. What does it look like for you?
Right, typical work day. I mean, I'm in there for between 10 to 8 and 8 o'clock. I like to be there. Do you know what I go in sometimes? At that time in the morning, I go in, I sometimes have my breakfast there, just to get, and I go in and we get the heat on, we like to the place nice and warm for people. And what I'll do sometimes, I just take a walk around when there's nobody else there and just look at certain things. I might move things, change things. I mightn't do that at all. I might think everything's perfect. I just love to sit back when there's nobody there and just take a look. We'll have a bit of peace, quiet. Then we're open for bang on 9, maybe 5. There's never, ever in 38 years been a day that has been a minute after 9. It's with a stickler. I've seen me having to abandon my car in traffic and getting or park somewhere I shouldn't to get there's nobody can ever say we weren't open for 9. And like if I see, we do a lot of school, if I see people say 10 to 9, we'll let them in, things like that. And then a typical day, I mean, it could be, there's no typical day. I could have the first person through the door could go in and spend a fortune. They could come in for a chat. They come in for a school tie. It's just so different. People think it's not like an office where you're just sitting in front of it. I couldn't cope with that. I honestly, even though we're in the same premise, you just never know who's going to come through that door. And that's what you look forward to. Now, sometimes you might say, oh my God, not him again. But most people would love to see coming and but there's no typical day. I mean, we close at 5:30, but there's no typical day. Like I could some days maybe close at 4 if it's not busy, which we don't do obviously. But there's other days where we still stand there at 6 o'clock. People keep coming. So so there's no typical day. That might sound strange in a shop, but there honestly there's no typical day. So it's not. It's every day is honestly every day you don't know what you're going to get.
Yes. So that requires you to be adaptable too, though.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I treat nearly everybody the same. Look, there's only two. Either leave them alone or don't. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's the sort of like I could have two. It's hard. We get a broad range of customers, from children with special needs who do a special school, to a man going to a stag do to somebody going to a wedding, going to a funeral. Maybe they're in a hurry and want out. I say somebody calls in for a chat. just, you don't know who's coming to come through. Maybe somebody you haven't seen in a year. People coming back. With a lot of customers come home, young lads come home from Australia, New Zealand, things like that, and maybe you haven't seen them in a year. You catch up with them, and then their wardrobe's completely restocked, and you prefer, and then that's sometimes their tastes have changed because they've been away, so it's a whole new learning curve for us as well. So then you'll know for the next time they come back. No, honestly, and I mean that some people don't understand because they think it's just standing in the shop leaning against the counter on a boring day. You never know who's going to come through that door next, which is great. You wouldn't want to know. It would take the surprise and the fun out of it. So yes. But every day, and I mean this town, and I'm not just, every day is a learning curve. And you never think you know it. You never ever think you know it all. I learn something new nearly every day. So
brilliant.
And my dad teaches me something. My dad teaches me something new nearly every day. So he does.
There we go. Very good indeed. I think, I've actually learned an awful lot, I have to say, in the last 60 minutes, let's say. I've loved it. I find it very, very interesting. I hope our audience, who is watching and listening, gets as much value as I've actually got out of speaking with you. Now, just before we wrap up, just remind our audience, where is it that Dessies is actually based?
We are based in 12 Upper English Street, Armagh City, slap bang in the middle of the city. We're like a landmark now, we've been there that long. So we are. Yes. If you ask most people in Armagh, I think they'll be able to tell you. If you ever got interactions, it's beside Dessies or it's across from Dessies, or we're the local landmark, so we are.
Yes, and also as well, because I know you've touched on this throughout the entire show, David, but just to close our little show, just give a summary again. What is it that, if somebody's interested in going to Dessies, what is it that you offer? What is it that you can do for people?
Right, we can do something for you. Or look, we can give you the personal touch. You come in, you tell me, look, I'm going to a wedding. I don't want anything too dressy. I want something dressy. I don't like this colour. I don't like. We give people what they want, basically, and it's hard to explain. It's that personal touch, but knowing how personal to take it. People come in and they ask for me because I've done it the last time. They asked for my dad because somebody said, look, Dessie got me a nice shirt the last time. I'd like to see him. I put it down to a personal touch and knowing our customer. And yes. If we don't know them, we'll know them by the time they leave, if they want. So honestly, Matt, I'd say our personal touch has a lot to do with it.
And that could be, it could be school uniforms, it could be uniforms, stag do's, it could be weddings, whatever.
You name it. School's a big thing for us. We do 17 schools. And it's not a day goes past we don't sell some piece of school uniform. And it could be, say, parents maybe don't even know what uniform but this child has, so we have to round that off. No, just as I say, I keep coming back. Personal touch has a lot to do with it. And I say, I get to know a lot of people. And if I'm taking them to the young school kid or whatever, I say, look, the last time you were here, you were doing something at school, how'd it go? Or you were going to a football match the last time you were here, how was it? Or sometimes they don't want to talk at all, as I say. So I don't. So again, I'm going to say it again, the buzzwords are personal touch.
Very good. Perfect. It has been an absolute pleasure to host Mr. David Feeney on Bandido Talks. What I'll just remind all of our folks who are watching and listening is, around the video, I'll have all your links to your Facebook page and anything else that would direct people to where Dessies are. I'll make sure that we have the address, we'll have the Facebook link, so people will be able to find Dessies, people will be able to find Mr. David Feeney for that personal touch. Apart from that, sir, is there anything else you would like to add, David?
No, I'm just glad it went so well. I'm hard to believe that was an hour. That's fun.
Exactly.
So I really enjoyed that. So I really enjoyed it. Really did.
Super. Well, it's been a pleasure on my end. Thank you very much for giving us your time, your attention, and your expertise. Really, very much appreciated.
Thank you.
I will be in touch with you, sir. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your evening, and all being well, we shall be in touch soon, Mr. Feeney.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much. Thanks again.
Perfect. I really appreciate that, David.
No problem. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll get chatting to you soon.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.